Hi everyone, good afternoon. This is Ekta Dubey from Analytics. Thank you everyone for being here. We will start in next 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Hello everyone, good afternoon. So before I start, I just want to know, am I clear and audible? If anyone can just let me know.
Yes, Ekta.
You could be a little louder, please, or get the mic closer to you.
Okay, just a moment. Now am I louder? Now am I audible?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay. So
Thank you.
hello all, a very good afternoon, and myself Ekta Dubey, on behalf of the Analytics team and our title partner Exotel, we welcome you all on the webinar, Adoption of Cloud Communication for Digital Transformation of FinTech Sector. So before we start the webinar, there are a few guidelines that I would like to highlight and make you people aware of. Requesting all the attendees to be on mute when the speakers are taking the respective session. Of course, we are going to have interesting Q&A session as well, where the attendees can ask the questions, if any, to the respective speakers. I'll highlight certain guidelines for the same. You need to raise your hands, unmute yourself on your video, introduce yourself, and put a question to the concerned speaker. Before we move on to the keynote, I am glad to introduce a partner, Exotel. To speak about them, Exotel is one of the Asia's largest cloud telephony companies, working with 4,500 plus businesses, including top enterprises and startups. They solve communication problem for various industries, be it like automobile, cab aggregators, e-commerce, BFSI, or fintech. Exotel is a secure and a reliable business phone system on the cloud, simple to set up, no additional infrastructure or equipment required, enables sales support team irrespective of where they work from. So now, moving to on a keynote session, I would like to invite Subha Sundaram, ABM lead with Exotel, who will share her interesting insights on adoption of cloud communication for digital transformation in the fintech sector. Thank you, Shubha, for being here with us today, and over to you.
Hi, Ekta. Thank you. Oh, just give me. Hi, Ekta. Am I audible?
Yes, Shubha, you are.
Okay. So thanks everyone for taking out your time and joining today's webinar. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Just let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes, Shubha.
Okay. So hello everyone. Thanks for your time today. The topic of today's webinar is adoption of cloud communication for digital transformation of fintech sector. So before I move into the topic, I would like to give an introduction about myself. I'm Shubha. I take care of account-based marketing at Exotel. One of our major expertise includes working with the enterprises, especially some of the largest banks, insurance, fintech, to streamline their customer communication. I also help them to create personalized communication platform with both the operational and the financial benefits. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute, Ekta. I'm facing some problem with my presentation.
No problem, no problem. We are here.
I'm really sorry. Just give me a minute. Ekta, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen of agenda.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one.
Thanks, Ekta. So here is the agenda for today's section. We'll quickly go over the key statistic trends in fintech across the world, and a little bit about an overview of fintech industry in India, and then what are the key communication challenges faced in the fintech sector, and how Exotel is helping transforming all the fintech enterprises to streamline their customer communication. Moving on. Looking at some of the key statistic trends in fintech, how worried or excited we should be about the fintech. From the research by the Finance Online Review for Business, it says in 2019, 64% of the consumers have used 2 or more fintech services or platform. Additionally, recent fintech statistics shows that the COVID-19 pandemic has contributed to the acceleration of cloud services and similar solution for the industry. As such, it makes sense the usage of fintech will only increase in the coming years. So some of the major points are the global financial market is projected to reach $26.5 trillion by 2022. The global fintech market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 23.58% from 2021 to 2025. Fintech market report in Asia, particularly India and China, shows that the region has the fastest growth in the fintech consumer adoption. Asia Pacific region have a 40% fintech lending in the market share. So moving on, what are some of the top key trends in fintech that we will be facing for 2022 are? the digital only banking is looming. So if you say digital only banks are popular for a number of reasons, one of which is convenience banking. Visit of banks will drop nearly to 40%. And AI is going to be a natural for financial institution. All the financial institutions will increasingly start relying on AI to handle transactions, because AI is already finding its way into many of the financial applications, especially with regards to security and in the customer services. Intensifying fintech regulation, because expanding of the fintech market will also expand a lot of cybersecurity threats, which will prompt the countries to address the fintech regulation at their own pace. And payment innovation with the digital wallets, mobile payment, will drive the fintech payment innovation. The biggest trend in the payment innovation is actually the rise of mobile payments, especially during the pandemic time. From the foregoing, it's easy to see fintech is going to revolutionize the fintech sector in many ways, from increasing the use of payment gateways to providing credit and helping people across the globe to conduct business and personal transaction. With the much easier account setups and no first transaction, fintech will also boost e-commerce and everywhere. The steady population growth from the likes of China and India will further the drive to fintech to territories unknown. When you consider that this coupled with the increasing computing and internet penetration, then there is just a looming likelihood the current generation could expect to see fintech vastly different from its now, say even in 5 years. So to give you a fintech industry of overview in India, the Indian fintech market is expected to record an annual growth rate of almost 12% during the forecast period. The Indian fintech industry has already shown a huge growth over the past few years. India is gradually becoming a hub for many fintech startups. Even India has actually secured the second position in the world with the largest fintech startups, following United States. Because of a lot of government initiatives that is promoting digitization of financial services and cashless economy, it has helped in shifting the consumer focus towards digital alternatives for financial transaction and services. The adoption of fintech worldwide grew only at a rate of 64% in 2019, whereas in India, the growth rate was almost 87%. So the rapid rise of smartphone penetration, economical access to data, and the growing middle class also have given rise to a connected digital economy. Major digital consumer tech platforms such as e-commerce, mobile food delivery brands have inspired the expectations of providing a seamless digital services and providing a personalized customer experience. Customers are increasingly expecting a superior experience when it comes to from their journey, when it comes to their digital interfaces, products and services, and also personalized digital encounters, resulting in the change of expectations from their banking services as well. COVID-19, brought a major shift in the penetration of consumer looking for financial products. For consumer, the use of digital channel to look for their financial products has increased in the past few years. They are looking for a better customization and targeted products. With the increasing focus on contactless transaction, more and more consumers are turning into online modes of buying and renewing their financial products. This has prompted many companies to offer digitally enabled omni-channel system and better online functionalities. Fintech companies face several challenges to deliver relevant messages at the right time using the right channel. Apart from these are some of the few pressing challenges that we have come across, while solving it for our customers when it comes to the customer communication. One, it's inconsistent and manual customer communication. Since the customer engagement across the customer facing team is not ideal and a lot of repetitive messages are not being automated. Lack of actionable sales insight, insufficient proof of customer interactions, and ineffective agent and partner communication, especially when it comes to a third party agents. There has been surely a rapid growth in the cloud communication adoption in the past year or so. Just to give you an example, we at Exotel, we had onboarded almost 25 to 30 different organizations specifically from the BFSI industry since lockdown. This has included some of the top banks, insurance, broking companies, and other financial institutions in India. Working with some of the BFSI companies, we have identified how our solution can empower the entire fintech customer lifecycle. So like first we can concentrate about the sales team, then I will move to support team and how it'll benefit and for the collection teams. So when it comes to sales revenue, especially during the pandemic era, there was a tectonic shift in the sales process and practices. Almost 90% of the sales team have actually moved to using a remote model. There is increased usage in the calls, videos, chat. A lot of tools have come into play, and the business are making sure to make use of these tools effectively to ensure digital interactions are pretty smooth. And more than 75% of the sellers are preferring remote human engagement, which is better than face-to-face interaction. These are all getting backed by the studies which was made by McKinsey. Some of the solutions that can solve the challenges for the revenue and growth team are for better lead generation, having a chatbot on your website, voice bot with humanoid voice, WhatsApp bots can be used to generate leads and connect with the customer instantly for a better lead generation. Automate some of the bulk calling, especially your marketing campaigns, and improve the buyer engagement. Intelligently, you can target or route the calls to the targeted reps based on their area of expertise for improving the agent productivity. Using the call insights to segment and target so that you will be able to prospect for a better lead to deal conversion. Some of the supporting features that is available in Exotel platform for the growth teams are auto dialer solution, smart voice, IVR, chat bots, voice bot, call analytics, automated call campaigns, be it in your call, SMS, WhatsApp, and we can also provide you with a campaign specific virtual number. Moving on, you will also be able to record calls, review all the call data of your sales rep to draw revenue related insight, and you can grow your deal size with which it can help you to focus on higher potential deals. Create a single source of truth where all the call data can be shared across your different CX apps like your CRM, help desk, which can offer them a 360-degree customer view across some of your function. You'll some of the supporting features here will be we have rich API integration that can be integrated with any of your existing solutions which you have, call recordings, call analytics, and dashboard and reporting. Some of the solutions to enable your support and CX team, you'll be able to configure call flows, track and manage your missed call, auto respond to some of your L1 queries. Apart from that, onboarding your customer, especially remotely, was very difficult during the pandemic time. So we have also come up with a solution called co-browsing platform and also live chat to create a better onboarding experience. You'll be able to achieve a longer customer lifetime value by extracting some of the key phrases which is used by your successful agent, and you can apply it across your different teams. Automated calls and SMS can be actually triggered to collect the feedback. Some of an interesting features that support all these solutions are voice streaming applet, missed call tracking, call management, and having a proper multi-level IVR to route the calls accordingly. So another problem with the when it comes to the support and the CX team is when some of your existing customers are trying to call back, obviously they'll have to go through again the IVR system, and it might actually they might feel very uncomfortable. So for that, you can auto connect your customer to the target agents without making them go through the IVR to improve the resolution efficiency. You can also look up the call data within the customer profiles from the help desk app and personalize the communication. And with all these things, you can actually generate ready to report call and SMS report. Some of the supporting features here are sticky agents, listen, whisper badge, help desk integration, profile pop-ups, call dashboards, and reporting. Collection, for most of the financial institution, collection are very crucial and lifelines. So some of the solutions here which can actually empower your collection team is from the updated customer information that is sourced through the enterprise stack. You can schedule a periodic campaigns through SMS, WhatsApp call for a personalized and a non-intrusive communication. You can also swap the number on a timely basis to enable higher pickup rates and lower the chance of non-recoverable cases. Features like dynamic caller ID, call reporting, dashboard API call tracking, call analytics. These are some of the features which can support your collection team. And also, flexible and simple to set up API can create a single source truth for all your customer facing team, even for your collection team. You can use robot and also collection friendly automation to efficiently schedule the periodic calls and SMS for the collection reminders. Again, here, some of the features which will support it are click to call, customer connected, automated call campaigns. And moving on, here are some of the top companies in India who are actually using Exotel solution. And they have actually gained a lot of operational and operational efficiency ever since they started using Exotel solution. So here Zerodha was able to completely move into Exotel platform in just few hours after deciding to go live. Also, Zerodha went live with a complete offline system that removed the dependency on the data connectivity, which was quite crucial because they started using our solution during the pandemic time. Rupeek is one of the leading digital lending fintech platform. They almost scaled 4x of their call volume within first 5 months. They started using Exotel. They're also using Exotel Auto Dialer and IVR to improve the productivity of their agents. They have also integrated their CRM for a better lead management and conversion rate. MoneyTab, India's first app credit-based line, is using Exotel solution to boost call connectivity and also to improve user activation rate. They were able to track the activity and performance of both in-house and outsourced agent using a single platform without investing in any additional infrastructures or software. So these are some of the other benefits of using a cloud communication system. One is you'll be able to improve the brand value. Everywhere the communication is happening, your brand is actually established to your customer. Second, it will reduce your operational cost. The cloud system, it will take away all the operational costs, especially in the telephony segment, all the initial PRI lines which you have to set up being involved. And it will help to improve the overall customer experience. It gives a complete insight, that is increase your visibility and insight. One of the greatest challenges, not only like financial sector, but every sector faces lack of having a 360 view of the customer to give them a personalized experience. So we will be able to our systems will enable you to do so. Help gain an edge over the competition and improve the conversion. And it also has a direct impact on your sales as well as your customer retention rate as well. It will improve your conversion rate. So the cloud communication will bring a lot of value education, and it can help to streamline the customer communication. And how Exotel actually stands out in the market over the other solution and system is that we are having a vision of bringing up all the customer communication in a unified single platform, where you can launch an omni-channel campaigns for your different lead generation campaigns, remotely onboard your customer, and also enable your support team with all the data for providing a better personalized CX experience. So that's all I had it for today. So thank you so much for patiently listening to the discussion. We can open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, Shubha. Thank you, Shubha, so much for sharing the interesting insight. So, audiences, we have opened the floor for the discussion. I would request you can raise your hands, unmute yourself, and as mentioned, put your question to Shubha, if any. Or to keep the chat box, we can also keep the chat box engaging. You can put your question there and Shubha will take it from there. So anything works. So we'll wait for a moment, Shubha.
Yes, Ekta.
You can also put the question on the chat box, if any, and we'll take it from there. Okay, Subha, what I take is we'll start with the panel. Maybe when the speakers come into picture, there will be many questions when the discussion opens. So now, thank you so much, Shubha, once again. So now moving forward to our interesting panel discussion, which is reimagining the customer experience using cloud communication. And I'm happy to introduce speakers today. We have Mr. Rahul Kumar, Head of Alternate Data Product with Jupyter. We have Ms. Pushpinder Kaur-Bhullar, Head of Operations with Kashi. We have Mr. Anurag Reddy, Vice President Product and Chief of Staff with Dinero. Mr. Robin Vishwajit, Chief Product Officer with Zigzug. And Mr. Krishnan Parmeshwaran, CTO and co-founder with Namaste Credit. And of course, we have a moderator, Shubha Sundaram from Exotel, who will be moderating this panel. So thank you everyone for taking out your precious time and looking forward to a very interesting panel discussion.
Hello.
So thanks, Ekta, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to moderate today's session. The topic for the today's session is reimagining the customer experience using cloud communication. Before we begin, we have a strong panel with us. Let's do a quick round of introduction. Please join me in welcoming Rahul Kumar, Head of Alternate Data Provider, Jupyter. Hi, Rahul.
Hi, Shubha. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Next is, sorry. Yeah, next is Pushpinder Kaur-Bhullar, Head of Operations of Kashi. Hi, Pushpinder.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm looking into the operations for Kashi, and we are a fintech company. So yeah, a lot that Shubha has covered. We have been utilizing those services, and I think they are really important in today's world.
Thanks, Pushpinder. Anurag Reddy, VP Product and Chief of Staff, Dinero. Hi, Anurag.
Hello, hi, Shubha. Thank you for having me here, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I work with Dinero. We are an upcoming fintech startup. We're building a neobank, and we're based out of Hyderabad. Obviously, we'll get into the panel discussion and speak a little bit more about our product and our learnings over the year.
Hi, Anurag. Thanks, Anurag. Next is Robin Vishwajit, Chief Product Officer, Zigzug. Hi, Robin.
Hey, everyone. Pleasure to be here. So I lead the product function for Zigzug, which is a SME neobank that we are building on top of the accounting stack. So targeting the middle layer of the SME segments and focused on lending, very strongly focused on lending and credit cards business. So looking forward to engage. I've been working with the fintechs for almost 4 years now, mostly in the capacity of a banker as a fintech engagement partner. So maybe I can give a broader perspective rather than a one specific product. So hope to add value.
Thanks, Robin. And last, Mr. Krishnan Parameshwaran, CTO and co-founder of Namaste Credit. Welcome, Mr. Krishnan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So this is Krishnan. Namaste Credit is the largest marketplace for SME lending in India. We have a neobank driven interface for SMEs to get credits, and we believe in democratizing the SME lending space in India. Apart from that, we also do automate the credit underwriting with the leading banks and NBFCs in India. Thank you. Looking forward for the discussion.
Welcome, Krishnan. So looking forward to have an insightful discussion with all of you. So during the initial part of today's discussion, we covered a lot of trends that has been going on the communication side, especially in the fintech sector. So let's dive deep into the discussion. So the first part of today's discussion will cover about the communication strategy each of the company has adopted. So I'm pretty sure during pandemic, the country before pandemic the country had a very traditional way of selling financial product. But with the pandemic, with remote sensing, selling, and remote servicing. What has been the communication strategy during the pandemic, and how especially the relationship has affected between the agent and the customer has impacted, and how your customer, how have you curated your customer communication around that? So Pushpinder, I would like to start the discussion with you. I would like to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure, thank you, Shubha. So I think there was a saying. In fact, I had written one of the reports. It said that COVID-19 is not the only virus with a talent for transformation. I think it has brought transformation with it, and it has changed our lives drastically as individuals and as organizations collectively. So with pandemic moving in, I think there has been a lot of change for most of the organizations. However, we have been a fintech organization, and all our modes of communication have been through digital channels, and we have ensured the only difference that was that we were not present to see each other face to face and optimize, and rest all our businesses and operations and all our are currently CRMs, and everything is currently on cloud-based solutions, and we have been effectively being able to monitor our business productivity through apps. Then we had the sales management and applications which helped us drive sales even during pandemic and post first wave and second wave, with using the digital channels and effective monitoring of teams through regulated monitoring applications and softwares. I think we've currently, we are running 2x of what we were pre-COVID. So it has been a drastic, and it has been, I think I say it's been a boon for us with pandemic coming in, and we have bettered our systems and our technology front, and whatever little dependency that we had, which was maybe face-to-face conversations, or that has all gone away with pandemic moving in. And it has also, in terms of customer centricity, it has helped in we have bettered our customer service platforms. Then there's more collaboration among team members. Our team strength has increased drastically, even though we are not currently, our workforce is not currently catering to, or it's not pertaining to a particular location, and everywhere, wherever our individual team member is working. So we are collaborating irrespective of the location, but it has given a lot of freedom and transparency, and helped in bettering our overall sales and in turn our revenues.
Thanks, Pushpinder. That is really insightful. So Robin, your views on that, what has been your communication strategy during the pandemic?
So let me give a additional color to this, what Pushpinder just said. So the thing is that apart from the remote action and remote communication, the one important thing that has changed in communication, that it has necessitated the being more contextual. That when you are in a face-to-face communication with a customer, you can play a lot on how the customer is reacting, how is he responding, and a lot of those are non-verbal cues. But when you are on a remote communication model, then the role of data becomes all the more important. That how can you use the data to make that communication all the more contextual. And that's where the importance of integrating your communication systems with the data that you have from formal sources, as well as alternative sources, as well as the history of communications with that customer. So when you enrich that talking points that the user is using to make that communication more contextual, you come across as first of all more empathizing to the customer. That this organization understands what I'm going through, point number one, and what exactly is my need. So it also prevents, because pandemic was a very odd time, right? So and we all of us are in the business of doing sales. Sales in such difficult times sometimes can come across as tone deaf. Somebody who's going through a bad time and you try to hard sell something, it can come across as very tone deaf, and that can reflect very adversely on you as an organization. So it's all the more important that you make that conversation lining more intelligent, more contextual, using whatever information you have about the customer at that point of time from various sources. So that is one. Secondly, and this is more applicable to larger organizations, because typically the call center setups, if you see for larger call center setups, these were typically very controlled environments, where these are closed centers where you could not take a phone, everything. So all of a sudden, when pandemic hit, that all went for a toss. So the strength of cloud communication came to the fore at that point of time, that whosoever was on cloud was able to very seamlessly transfer to a work from anywhere model. Otherwise, whosoever we are working on on-prem solution, technology solution, on-prem call center models, they found it very difficult to restart their operations at the same scale and the same complexity that they were dealing with earlier in controlled environments. So I think that these are the two additional aspects that I would like to add to how the pandemic has changed the communication strategies of not just fintechs, for that matter, the entire industry.
Thanks, Robin. I actually agree with you. Pandemic has brought so many changes, in how even the customers are looking into their expectation also. As Pushpinder also mentioned, digital transformation was kinda there, but COVID has accelerated the digital transformation process into a very sporadic form or something like that. So how difficult was it to service your customer and communicate with them? Because as people were more started, they were looking for instant solution. So Rahul, if you can actually give your insights on what was happening at your organization, it'll be really insightful.
Hello everyone. When the pandemic was started, I was working in the B2B2C kind of organization that we were serving our client, and from there it was getting, communicated to the customer. Further on, I moved to a B2C organization named Educare. So how the things has been gone, that when the pandemic was started, no one was ready for the same, and at the same time, everything, hiccups kind of thing has been started that time. There was no process, nothing, and everyone was looking for the solution. But later on, process has been set up, the cloud things has been adopted, chatbot things came into the picture, and process are getting streamlined. Now I'm coming to that, how the communications channel has been managed. So communication, basically I'll categorize that into three parts. First one is the acquisition, second one is the service, and third one is the awareness. So if I'll start from the awareness, it was comparatively easier because people were sitting at the home, whatever communication you was sharing with them, they were ready to listen, they were ready to basically read the same. Same with the acquisition also, because now you don't need to struggle with the traffic that the person is not carrying the cards or kind of that, the documents and all. So those things were resolved. But the service is something that has been impacted very much because the call center people, everyone was, far from the actual, basically the communication channel. Apart from that, we were not facing the customer. The customer service team was not facing the customer. So those, as Robin already mentioned about non-verbal, those were missing. So it took some time, but now the service team is also getting stable, that with the help of video calls and all, that in our organization it's also getting managed. The same, that if a customer is facing such a kind of issues that they just want to talk to the customer care people, and we are putting a lot of effort regarding the same, and the whole ecosystem is working towards that. But one thing I want to mention here, as you mentioned, that digital transformation was always there, and the effort taken by the NPCI and RBI in the recent year after the demonetization, they came up with the eNACH, they came up with the eKYC right before the pandemic on the 9th February 2020, I believe. They launched the BKYC, and just assume that without eNACH, without BKYC, the concept of neobank or the digital lending would it be possible? No. So these are the, combined effort from the, ecosystem as well as the regulatory authorities make it possible, and now things are running smoother.
Yeah, thanks Rahul on that. Robin, how was it in your in your organization? Like, how was the digital transformation like before pandemic, and like with the pandemic, how the digital transformation happened?
So to be very honest, what actually happened, that it expedited the pace of projects. First of all, it was a necessity, because without that, there was no business. So especially, and this I'm talking about the first COVID wave, where nobody was prepared, right? So from, let us say, March 2020 till June, nobody was prepared. Nobody knew what to do, right? So everybody had to, take action within a matter of, let us say, 15-20 days, which typically in large organizations ends up taking 6 months or probably more. Another reason for that is because the people who were actually involved in the regular, physical sort of a business, they were actually free because they had nothing to do. So they were able to put their energies behind getting, digital transformation projects off the ground. And the beauty about digital projects, digital platforms, digital products is that once it takes off in a big way, because, ultimately the end consumer, whether it's an internal consumer, which is probably your salespeople, or your end consumer to whom you are actually selling, once they start seeing value in the experience, they pick it up in a very big way. So maybe I can give you an example. So, there was a digital lending platform that I was working on in my erstwhile organization, and it was going on for quite some time. It had not gone live. The moment it went live, more than the D2C conversions, it was used as a D2E tool. The employees started using, so for example, if a person is sitting, a sales guy is sitting at home, he used to call up the customer saying, sir, can you download this app and I'll be able to give you a loan in 3 minutes. So then a lot of conversion. So the digital platform actually ended up becoming assisted digital. And I think a lot of us I personally think that in India, if you have to reach a larger segment through digital, a lot of it has to be assisted digital rather than D2C digital. So, the pandemic ensured that the people who were core, pure play, physical people actually saw value in assisted digital and started using it very actively. The second part is that people understood the power of data. That, if you are giving a sales guy an overall portfolio, how his portfolio has moved, or how a particular customer has behaved, over that period of time, he actually started understanding the data and then started talking to the customer accordingly. So for example, if there is a sudden dip in the balance of a customer, he could talk to him in the sense that, are you going through was there a medical emergency at your house? Can I help you with an instant loan? You are approved with an instant loan, which I can get it disbursed in the immediate time. So that helped in conversions also. So again, as I said, that digital platforms and data go hand in hand. Communication is just the way. Communication channel is the way to communicate, either it from the core systems to the employee or to the customer. Ultimately, all these three have to work together to ensure that the customer experience is excellent.
Thanks, Robin. Like, it was really insightful, like how it happened in your organization. So obviously, like it will take a huge amount of infrastructure because, as everyone mentioned, like pandemic, it changed a lot of things. But I feel like it also brought a lot of changes, especially when it comes to the customer expectation. Because they started using a digital financial platform also. With the existing, like the customer always started comparing the products or the sales or services with probably an e-commerce app. So you're not competing with your sector, but you're also competing with 10 other different sector. So my next question is, in the changed world, when the entire approach is becoming customer centric, how difficult was it from the infrastructure standpoint also? And like specifically when it comes to the communication channel, what has been your channel strategy? Or like especially when you're going to choose the channels for communication, what channels will you keep in the mind for your future? So Krishnan, like if you can probably take us through, it'll be like really great.
Yeah, sure. So when you look at the channels, right? Like, so what is the most important thing is how do you engage with the customers? How do you engage with the channel? That's the most important aspect. Now, when you look at the lending as a particular vertical, so what matters is how how do you engage with the customer at each stage of your lending process? Now, as you say, like we just regulated video KYC as an option for customers to be compliant with KYC. Now, as part of the video KYC process, how do you engage with the customer and try to make sure that this particular process is smooth and streamlined, right? With all the the tech-driven processes to identify the different mechanisms where you can identify frauds and identify customers, right? Through this, like that, we'll go deeper and deeper as you go forward, right? You go deeper into personalization, how you interact with them through various mediums, right? Into the specifics of the engagement model, like at what stage, what are the different ways that you can interact with the customer? How do you get the feedback, responses from them, right? How do you pass on the required parameters for them to be able to process? Basically, it's the process, right? Application process. So how do you make sure that the channels are involved in each stage of your engagement, right? Now, when you go to the personalization space, again, what happens is there are customers who would need certain specific personalized needs, right? So your system, whether it is communication or your core systems, how does it cater to those personal needs of the customer, right? It could be in a lending space, it could be anything related to the product that you would want, the kind of loan offering, the kind of interest rate that you wish to receive, the kind of loan that you wish to receive. How does the interaction happen, right? So these are all part of the visibility, the engagement is basically, all these are tied to the communication layer, right? So that at every stage, the customer is involved, right? So the more the digital processes that we have involved in, the communication becomes the key, and the complete visibility into the entire process becomes the key aspect, right? So that's what we have delved very deep in the related engagement, the tools to help improve the customer engagement. And nowadays, we also are talking about super apps, right? How you have an app within a, like which can receive information, like that can, the messaging or the information can flow through different systems, right? And then the customer is going to have a seamless flow between these things, and still they don't lose out on the engagement model or the the personal attribute of them. So yeah, we basically ensure that all of these are covered in our process.
Yeah, thanks, Krishnan. Like as you mentioned, it's going to be like all hyper personalization and everywhere. I mean, nowadays the customer, especially in their financial product, they want to instantly connect with their sales or service team, especially like maybe even WhatsApp, but also wants a personalization there. So AI, machine learning, chat bot, WhatsApp, like channels which are available these days. So Anurag, which channel are you going to like keep in your mind, and like how your strategies are being implemented around that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joe, for the question. So I think in a slightly different perspective to almost all the questions I probably faced today, because we are a company that was born in the pandemic, right? So essentially, we're still yet to launch. We still don't have a customer base completely per se. So we're trying to figure out what's best. And all of this is based on a lot of user research and what we've spoken to customers in the past year, right? We're building out a neobank. So just give some context to the products that, I can, my answers a lot more clear. And we're trying to, help young professionals, right, broadly in the age range of 20 to 35, help them build good financial habits. So the broader user persona is someone who's new to the entire ecosystem of personal financial management and is quite intimidated by the entire space, right? So we're trying to help them build good financial habits and in turn reward them in a very unique manner. And we did a survey for about 60 people through calls, and we rolled out a survey. No, sorry, we rolled out a survey for about 500 people, and we personally spoke to about 60 to 70 users. And one problem that a lot of people face with general banking today is the fact that customer support is not very great, right? You're bombarded with calls on where banks, sell you different products without understanding if you actually need those products. Like, for example, I've personally got about 30 different calls in the past 2 months from Kotak about for one credit card, and they don't even remove my name from the system even if I ask them to. So neobanks in some sense are there to kind of solve that, right, through a very digital first approach. And most of the people here kind of like the digital first engagement. They don't like getting onto calls. Everything has to be done at the tap of a button. So in that sense, our strategy is to kind of enable a chatbot in our first product, right? And the way we define customer service is slightly different. To be able to power some of our services, which is we are powering investment services, we're having a very unique BNPL model. So for this, we're partnering with an online stockbroker, with a leading private sector bank in India, with a couple of NBFCs and an entire digital gold rewards partner. So we have about 5 to 6 partners, and all of them, with all of them, there are a lot of service-related issues that we raised, right? So the chatbot is something we're using to kind of streamline an in-app chatbot. And the way we're defining service is not just this, right? It's also a learning. Today, when a lot of these users come onto our app to kind of ensure better financial well-being, they also need to get a good hang of what these financial terms are, why to invest in a particular fund, what that fund means. So our chatbot also enables learning, personal financial learning within the app. So a user can actually type, okay, why is the metric of a tracking error extremely important for me to purchase this ETF, right? So we will give that person the entire answer to it. They don't have to really get out of the app to be able to read these various technical terms. We're trying to, change that definition of service through our entire thing. And I think in the future, we obviously want to get in WhatsApp also as a stream of communication. But at this point in time, there is a small downside that I've seen from my own experience in the neobanking sector, because you're partnering with about 4 to 5 different people, different partners. All of them are trying to use our platform as a way to cross-sell products, right? And that, in fact, increases the communication burden on the customer. So essentially, what neobanks are trying to solve for, it's going against it. But there is no option right now. I feel. I think neobanks are going to be a phenomenon in the future as they kind of become more of the primary accounts for a lot of people. I think the bargaining and negotiating power will change, and I think that's when fintechs can come together to kind of negotiate and streamline communication processes with various banks and ensure better customer experience.
Thanks, Anurag. So you really gave a great insight about neobanks and what is going to be the strategy, like communication strategies around there. Thanks for that. Moving on, Robin, if you can share your insight, what do you think will be the future, especially on the channel strategies which the organization will implement? Which channel will get the highest priority? What do you think about that?
So see, again, Anurag was mentioning that chatbot and WhatsApp is very important, because see, WhatsApp is important from the sense that you are talking to the customer at a place where he's used to use that sort of a medium, right? Having said that, in my view, WhatsApp, or for that matter, any chatbot, is just a presentation layer. That is how you present your information or your experience to it. The game of the experience is that what is it that you can pre-fill, or you ensure that the flow is the least, takes the least amount of time. So using what is the minimum amount of information, how can I pre-fill most of the information, and more often than not, I just ask for a yes or no, okay or not okay from the customer. That is where the game is. WhatsApp is just a presentation layer in my view. So the information ideally, and that is where the APIs come into the picture. Whatever open APIs are available from the players like Decentro, or from, for that matter, Karzaz of the world, a lot of it. So for example, if today I have to fill up, for hypothetically, if 50 fields are required to fill up a simple personal loan form, probably I can fill 40 of them by just taking 4 fields. You know, PAN, DOB, phone number, and maybe a couple of 4 or 5 fields can actually enable me to 40 fields just using the APIs that are very easily available. So the game is that you know, you bring in those APIs on these channels and then use it to enhance the experience. Just a chatbot, any chatbot will not do. It has to be a experience driven chatbot, so as to make the overall journey, you know, as seamless, as frictionless as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, Robin, for that. So yeah, we are talk about, like, you know, different channels, different chatbots, and like, you know, mostly for a segment which, especially, like, you know, maybe for the tech savvy urban population, this can actually, like, you know, play a very huge part. But what has been your strategy when it comes to a rural or a semi-urban population? I mean, we say that smartphones penetration are there, but still, I think, like, you know, a fair amount of population who actually don't use a smartphone. So what has been your strategy to communicate with them? So Rahul, if you can share your insight, it would be really great. Rahul, you're on mute.
Sure. So before moving towards what should be the strategy, and I'll try to keep it on the digital itself, because everyone is aware about the traditional methodologies of the hoardings and newspaper ads and TV channels and everything. So before going to that direction, first of all, we need to identify that what is the, whether they are belonging to our DG or not. So why I'm saying this, because maybe the penetration is that's only 22 or 23% into the rural area. But if you will go for that 5G methodology of the identification of the customer, so among those 18 to 58 kind of category, maybe possible this penetration will be 42 or 43% kind of. So that is the first level of assessment need to be done. Now I'm coming to that a few use cases, basically the few case study kind of. That if you can recall that in 2013-14 kind of time, I mean, the Facebook has created an innovative strategy for the feature phone user, where if I'm sending you a message on the Facebook and you are logged in with your mobile number on Facebook, so you will get an SMS and you can reply from your feature phone itself. So this was one of the very good strategy Facebook has done for the feature phone user that time. That will be a very good thing. I mean, kind of thought for you as well, Subha, as you are providing these kind of solutions. The second use case I'm talking about, that is the Odisha government for their awareness campaign, they used USSD. That that is very easily available in any of the Radicom partner. So they used USSD for creating awareness about the child malnutrition and the child take care and everything. So that was very successful even. And the last one is basically an e-commerce organization around 2012 or 13. They have done, they wanted to take care of the tier 3 or the rural population. So they selected, India has approximately 500 towns, and they have picked up a cinema hall from each and every town and put up their device there. People were coming, placing the order, giving the inquiry, and they were getting the call from the call centers. Something else innovative strategy can be created. So if I come to the process, I'm more of a process-driven person than the use cases. It was just a use cases kind of. So if I come to the process, first, if you are targeting those people, then you should have a video post with them. That will be the first requirement. Second, definitely you have to look out for those community centers where your target group is mostly visiting. And the last, and mostly, not the least, the most importantly, I can say that by looking on those areas, first we have to identify who are the customer who is having the smartphone, and we can treat them as a like whatever bank is doing with their banking correspondent. We can treat them, we can make them partner. They will go to the legal people and they will take the requirement. They will do the communications as per, from the point of view of the organization. So your network will be way bigger, but your, the total number of, employee, or you can say the investment is way lower than that. So this is more of the OPEX based model than the CAPEX based model. Apart from, but there is a challenge related to the same, as everything is coming to the non-digital channel. So risk assessment will be the tougher. So we have to find out some other ways like crop utilization, direct beneficiary transfer, SLBC's data. So those can be utilized for the risk assessment rather than the alternate data channel like SMS or you can say bank statement passing kind of things. It's not going to work there, but there will be other channels. So that will be the, I mean, precisely I can say that there will be more innovative strategies that each and every strategy need to think for.
Thanks, Rahul. That was like really insightful. So moving on, so yeah, during our previous discussion, we spoke about the different channels, communication, like customers are becoming very tech savvy. Even Anurag mentioned, like, people want non-intrusive communication and all those things. So obviously when there is going to be so much of bots, like WhatsApp bots, voice bots, or like chat bot, hyper personalization, it plays a major value, and because of hyper personalization, it also raises the concern on data privacy and security, because obviously, the data is going to be shared with some of your partners. So what has been your strategy around that to ensure the customer data is not breached? So Anurag, if you can, it'll be great if you can share insight from your side.
Yeah, sure, Shiva. I think the first thing. I mean, I have like about 3 to 4 pointers broadly to this question. I think the first thing is that you look internally, right, within your organization. You see what is it that you want to set right in order to ensure that the data that you're seeing of your customers is as confidential as it can get, right? So we proactively, even before we go into market, we've taken an approach of ensuring that we get through an entire ISO certification, through an entire compliance effort. So it's basically we're trying to inculcate a very strong mindset within the employees of our organization to ensure that there is confidentiality, there is integrity, and there is availability of information, right? So we're setting up the processes, we're setting up the risk management procedures to ensure that this is, we're taking data privacy as a very, very important concern. And given the fact that we are also catering to a largely young population that's even more aware about these issues, it's even more important for us to, be very proactive about this thing, right? So we're going through those kind of audits. A second is that we're also, dividing customer data across different classes, right? From class 1 to class 5, and ensuring that, there's only a few things that we're storing, and we're trying to not store as much as possible. And we're trying to look at the best industry practices when it comes to encryption and decryption, and you're trying to implement those technologies onto our, working on a day-to-day mechanism, right? So that's one thing. Second, I think we are closely following the various data privacy policies that are around the world. I mean, the GDPR is one thing, and India's also had, it put the PDP draft bill about 2 years back, and I think today they submitted the Joint Parliamentary Committee report today to the Parliament. So following these policies very regularly to ensure how we are complying according to the standards is also very important. And I think the other thing is that you really need to, I think if you look at if you look at India, or if you look at the fintech sector in India, it's probably one of the most advanced in the kind of digital public goods it's built out, right? I think India, the government, or is really coming up with really good techno-legal approaches to kind of look at data privacy, right? The account aggregator framework is a very recent thing. And I think that's kind of quite revolutionary in the way data, which is very siloed across different organizations, can be stewarded between different organizations to unlock value. I think bandwagoning out of the systems and adopting those systems will be extremely important for all fintechs, and I think that's probably that's probably a very revolutionary movement, I think, across the world when it comes to data regulation in the financial ecosystems. So I think businesses like us out here have to first become responsible stewards of data, and bandwagoning and adopting these frameworks is going to be extremely important. I think that's what we should do. And I think the last thing is that we're trying to be very clear about with our comms on our product, right? The problem is that most of the terms and conditions that you see, the privacy policies that are put onto apps, all right, they're as difficult as the Harvard Law Review. I think there was a recent survey that was run in Delhi about 155 law students couldn't even understand half of what was written there. So I think and the Center for Social and Behavioral Change of Ashoka University actually conducted a study to kind of understand if users will be willing to kind of give their data for better services, right? And they said yes, if it's made clear to us that our data is being stored in a very safe and secure manner. So I think one thing we're trying to adopt in our product is to put these comms very clear and crisp, right? I think we also have very witty ways of communicating to the user we're trying to do this. So that's another approach that we plan to adopt as we get to market. So yeah, that's kind of my take on this.
Thanks, Anurag. Krishnan, I mean, like, how has it been for your organization at Namaste Credit? So what has been, the strategy around the privacy, especially for the data and security perspective?
Yeah, I think already Anurag covered a lot of aspects of those, right? When you look at largely, we are moving towards a society where it is consent driven, right? Where individuals are giving their consent for their data, right? And there are a lot of frameworks, whether it is UPI, whether it is the NPCI payments, right? I know we are moving towards account aggregator frameworks where the customer is able to say what kind of information they want to share, right? And on the other end, it is very, very important for the businesses or enterprises to make sure that they look into this consent and treat that with all respect, right? To make sure that the data that is received from these customers, whether it is in transit or whether it is stored at rest, it is all in secure formats, encrypted, and also to make sure that this information is not kind of available outside of the consent or the purview of what it is supposed to be used for, right? I think the businesses have to deal with these things to make sure that it is used for the purpose that it has been received for, right? Apart from this, obviously, like you have to ensure that when you are working with partners, there are necessary security conditions, because as an organization, you may follow certain best practices, following norms, whether it is compliance aspects, right? But today the gamut of things is becoming more wider, where you have ecosystem, you're dealing with partners, you're dealing with other providers, because with cloud, you are integrating with multiple players. So how are we ensuring that all these players are also ensuring that this particular data integrity is followed, right? So these are some of the important aspects that we have to ensure, right? And then one of the key things that we have to ensure is also to make sure that the end customers, right, whom we deal with, right, all the information that is coming through is primarily, if you look at the information coming through will be in the form of files. It could be coming in the form of like data that is given by the customers. It could be terms and conditions that would be there. So all this, whenever the communication flows between these enterprises to these individuals, the communications are also protected by all means, right? Whether we talk about video-based tools, we talk about email communication, SMS communication, all kinds of means, whether it is WhatsApp-based chatbots, all this have to be ensured that whenever these communications are flowing between the enterprises and the customers are secured enough, right? So largely we give a lot of priority for these kind of things with respect to the customer information.
Thanks, Krishnan. So Rahul, if you give your final thoughts on this, it'll be really great.
Yeah, so as far as the data privacy, when we are talking about, so mostly this is something starts from the customer and that vendor. And the whole responsibility lies with the organization who is taking the data. So as we are a neobank plus lending organization, and before this also I was working into the alternate data sector. So I've gone through a lot of phases where I have seen that unknowingly data breaches are happening. And how it is happening? that you are taking the consent from the user that I am going to catch your data. So there are three kinds of consent. Just a consent, informed consent, and educated consent. So mostly what's happening that most of the organizations are taking consent. Or sometimes because Google has put up the requirement, if you are taking anything from the user's mobile phone, you have to show the blanket requirement for the same. So according to GDPR. So now informed consent came into the picture. Educated consent is still missing. So that is the first part. Now I'm coming to the when data is collected and going to the partner. So what's happening that most of the time, people are looking out for a solution that, okay, if sending the data to the partner, whether it's compliant or not. On the place of that, we should think from that line that if we are sending the data to the customer, whether that is necessary or not, on the place of compliances. So like, if we are sending our data to the partner, so if we are sending it just because of the compliances, then it's fine. If it's just a technical feasibility kind of things we are looking out for, we should ask our vendor, get all your things in your docket, come to our device, it's a cloud, I am providing the access, get it installed here. And I'm not going to send any data outside my premises. So that is the ideal. Second thing, I have seen that lots of organizations, KYC vendors, alternate data vendors, everyone is providing SDK to collect the data or SDK to do the, perform the work. So what's happening that most of the time people miss that, okay, we need to check the SDK from the other point of view also. And we generally miss that we need to take the antivirus certification from them as well. That whether you are whitelisted by XYZ antivirus, all the legal antivirus, or the strategic antivirus or not. So these are the two basic checkpoints. Third is definitely as Anurag already mentioned about the GDPR and the PDP. Apart from that, there is another thing that is called the Sri Krishna Committee report, on the basis of which PDP bill is drafted. So that is a beautiful report that define all the data in a proper format, that what should you keep, what should you delete, and how much time you should take to do the things. So all those things need to be taken care of. And lastly and most importantly, whatever partner we are assigning, we have to look at from that perspective also, that whether they have the strategic interest in our line of business or not. If that is, let us suppose I am an insurance organization, if my vendor has another venture who is doing the insurance itself, so there is a huge possibility because of the conflict of interest, the data privacy will be breached. Similarly, if I am a lending organization and my partner is either a fintech or the similarly lending organization kind of, so there is a huge chance that my data will be breached completely. And all these things, the responsibility will come to my organization. That is, so we keep the things very simple here. Create a ISC, basically like banks, information security group, who will take the responsibility of all these things. Whatever vendor you will allow, ask them for the ISO certification, audit certification, and ask them to install everything at your premise, at your cloud. So now it's not a difficult thing. Earlier it was like you have to take all your software into the pen drive, and you have to go to the bank and get it installed and come back. So those things are not required. So now it's very easy and can be implemented very easily if the whole ecosystem will try to do the same. A single player cannot make that much of difference because that will be very costly for them. But if everyone will be looking out for a single kind of structure, then definitely all the partners will be forced to have these compliances at their end. And in our end, the person who is the heading the ISG will be responsible for the same. So everything will be right on the place. That will be better way to say.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks. That was really it gave a great insights on what you're going to take care of for your privacy and security concern. So moving on, this will be the final conclusion of what do you think cloud communications, or how do you think cloud communications can achieve your digital transformation, and also especially aid in the process of customer life cycle. So Pushpinder, if you can give your thoughts on that, it will be really great.
Sure, Shahbazi. Digital transformation and innovation. So we need to use technology to improve every aspect of our operations. Starting with customer onboarding. In fact, it starts before customer onboarding as well. So we use various tools to 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 campaign and to get our leads in place, and in turn from those leads how we interact with each. There are various digital tools that are being employed currently, and it is with help of other applications, which in turn helps customer to identify, okay, these are his options wherein he would get so and so products and services. And once he is onboarded, I think there are plenty of with all my other panel partners, so they would agree that customers today, they are looking for ease, okay, and ease and comfort is what is driving them. So whichever organization is catering to their needs and is making their life easy for any product offerings, I think that is what is creating stickiness to a firm or to a particular product by customers. This and enhanced customer experience is of course a cherry on the cake. So how a customer is being dealt with from pre-boarding to his to ends till the time the sale is ended, and also post sales, how the treatment has been with the customer is very, very imperative, and it is important for any organization, and each and every organization needs to think ways and means to cater to customers, and this only can be done through digital channels and modes. So and the other thing is that with digital and cloud infrastructure in place, so the costing gets reduced, because when we onboard these channels, they are already catering to a wide range of customers existing in the market, and that reduces the cost, which would otherwise be if we were creating our own infrastructure and our own applications. So the ease is removed. There's more transparency from customers, and the communication is pretty clear for even the employees and the customers. The channels, digital channels are there to handhold customer at each and every stage. So which it can, so with, for example, we currently have IVRs and customers, as and when customer says, okay, I immediately need to speak to a customer service executive. So you can move from an IVR to, at a click, we have a person who is already in place and who's able to take the call through automated queuing system. So these are few digital tricks and means which makes the onboarding and our customers' life easier. And the more a customer is happy with the services and the ease of our application, I think that's going to add to the revenues for any business that we might be in. And in fact, I heard many panelists talk about the EA platform. I think that is, again, it's going to help customers to, go away from every time, you're validating your credentials to give possibly a bank statement or any of your documents. So, and with governments emphasizing on the digital channel and the digital, and moving on to digital modes of payment and bringing in reforms around this is gonna, it's a, so we can see a yearly growth of 25% CAGR in the digital communication space. So, so I mean, I think this is the best thing that today's customers can get. And with the technology in place, I think our lives have been a lot more easier as employers, as organizations, and also it has enabled us to better handhold our customers in the times that we have great competition.
Thanks. Thanks, Pushpinder. Thanks, Pushpinder, for your view. So Anurag, if you can give your final thoughts on how cloud communication system can help to achieve your digital transformation, especially for your customer life cycle.
Yes, yeah, Shubha. I think, if you broadly, as a startup that's just building out, I think what, cloud communication and cloud services do is that they significantly reduce our time to market, right? And especially for neobank, where we are kind of integrating with different systems, I think it's quite easy and different tools. It's quite easy for us. We have out of the box connectors, and all we have to do is just get a connection URL and a string, and we can start development, right? We don't have to worry about protocols and security mechanisms as much, and everything is available at one place. And more so for our development teams, it reduces system setups quite a lot, and it streamlines the processes, and they can focus a lot more on what they do. And in turn, how this kind of helps customer services, that cloud services are obviously basically microservices, right? So different teams or different development teams have ownership of their own services. So if there's a particular service that's down, the team knows it, right? It's not the old monolithic structure. So it's easy to service customers that way. If there's a certain bug, if there's a certain thing that's not working in the product, we know where to direct the issue, and we can make it much more faster. So in that sense, it gives a lot more flexibility. It gives a lot of reliability to users, and a much better user experience. And in all, it improves the productivity of the entire development team, right? They're more focused on what they're doing. And obviously, because you have almost all the tools at one place, connecting it with your CRM tools and with your customer support division, I think for them to fetch information is quite, much more faster and much more easier. So, I mean, talking about a startup that's building out, for us, I think getting to market is very important. And, cloud services in some sense are reducing that time to get there, and will also will make it easy for us to service them once we start onboarding users.
Sure. So thanks, Anurag. Thanks, absolutely, it has been an enthralling discussion, and it was really wonderful to engage with all of you. So, Ekta, we can actually open the floor for questions, Q&A session with the family members.
Yes, sure. So thank you all the speakers. Thank you, Shubha, for the moderation. So before we do the closure remarks, audiences, as I've mentioned on the chat box, we are open for the Q&A. So we have the panelists here, we have the moderator. So please raise your hands and put your questions or concerns, if any, with our panelists. We'll wait for a while. Audiences, you can put your questions directly if you want. Okay, Mitra has a question to Rahul Kumar. Mitra, please go ahead. How much safe is payment app? This is for Rahul.
Okay, so basically, as far as payment app is concerned, I can say it's 99% safe in India, because I mean, unless until you are not installing from anywhere else. If you are installing from the Google Play Store or App Store, it's 99% safe, because launching a payment app, it goes through the lots of iteration from the NPCI reviews and all. After that, they have to follow the protocol by Google. So these are the few checks already has been done before it is coming to you. So it is 99% safe. I left for the 1%, window, because hacking can be done at anywhere, even from the bank accounts also.
Okay, so she also mentions there might be a data breach over there.
Yeah, there might be data breach over there. So as a user, what you have to do, while giving permission to, first install the app from the Play Store or App Store only. That is the verified app by Google or Apple, basically. The second thing is, don't give unnecessary permission to any of the app, because they may ask you the permission, but if they came through those channels, they cannot take the data unless until you will allow them. So as a user, this is what you have to do. As an ecosystem, what the regulatory body does, that they review the app before it is getting launched into the market. So both the things are working together, and it will provide the right, service to you.
Thank you, Rahul. Any concerns, Mitra? Do you want to add anything? Or anyone else? You can mention your question in the chat, and I would love to take it from there. We'll wait for a while, Shubha. So what I feel is the panelists have been covering all the aspects, therefore we don't have any much questions on this. Anything you want to add, Shubha, or anybody who would want to do on the closing thing? Shubha?
Yeah, I mean, like if there is no questions, then probably I'll do the closing.
One closing remark, I think, because something that you, Shubha, covered in the presentation, but in our discussion didn't come up, was role of cloud communications and collections. That
Yeah.
is very important from a consumer protection perspective. Because specifically in India, and what RBI has also observed, that fintech, one of the biggest concerns of RBI on the fintech is coercive collection practices. So the role that cloud communication plays is from a consumer protection, that whatever communication is going from a regulated fintech or regulated entity to the consumer is recorded, and it can be accessed anywhere, anytime. That I believe from a consumer protection perspective is the biggest contribution that cloud telephony has brought. More importantly, and additionally, it is also, the role of voice bots in soft collections is increasing every single day. So I think collections is a piece that is going to be impacted in a big way, specifically in the next 12 to 18 months, when we'll actually see the aftermath of what has happened in the COVID period. Today, we are still have not seen that stress coming out in a big way. The role of cloud telephony, cloud communications to collections is going to only increase in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, sure.
Apart from that, I want to add one thing. That is, when we are talking about the cloud communication, it has a very strong role into the risk sector as well. So as far as we are talking about the risk, then I mean earlier it was getting a really difficult that with the limited resource or the fixed resource, we were needed to go with the same. But with the changes on the same, and AI, NLP, machine learning, all these things are coming together and providing, I mean, we look at holistic environment for the risk processes, where earlier what was happening, that we were taking the PAN number, fetching the bureau data, doing the risk assessment based on the same. That was only willingness. Maybe some of the time we were taking the bank statement as well. But right now what's happening through the SMS, through the account aggregator, through the bank statements, every of the customer ability as well as willingness is getting recorded. And from there, the beautiful, I mean, a very powerful risk engine is getting developed, and the lending or the you can say insurance, all the financial sector activity become easier.
Thanks, Rahul, for your final insight.
Yes. So I think, Shubha, we can do the closing remark. I should go ahead. Is that okay?
Yeah, that should be okay. If there is no questions, probably.
Yes. So on this closing note, I would like to thank our partner Exotel and all our thought leaders for taking out your precious time, and being here with us today. Pushpinder, thank you. Mr. Rahul, Mr. Anurag, Mr. Robin, and Mr. Krishnan. Of course, Shubha, thank you for moderating the panel. And of course, we shall be sharing the updated video with you in next day, and also the participation and the appreciation certificate with all the thought leaders for being with us today. And that's all for the day. And take care and stay safe, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.